Welcome back, fellow gamers. So you're a cat person and you've purchased Feline Ferocity, the Commander precon in Commander 2017, and you want to make some budget upgrades to it for under $20. So similar to the other two videos that I've produced so far, which you can find above in the cards, we're going to look at some of the cards to take out and high level stuff, and then after that dive deeper into cards that I'll slot in. As always, these prices are based on the making of this video, so there are some movements that are likely to happen depending on when you view this video. So I will call out 3 cards specifically that I'll take out, and then I'll just give you the rest kind of high level stuff. The first one I'm taking out is Hungry Lynx. This card looks pretty cool. It's definitely fun, but it's a trap card. Do not put this card in your deck. Take it out. If this card was in white, blue, or red, I would totally put this card in my Zedru deck and make sure to give an opponent this card so I can get a bunch of 1/1 death touches. And then once I'm done getting 1/1 death touches, I just get rid of Hungry Lynx, and all of a sudden I've got an army of poisonous rats. So that card's got to go, because unless you can protect Hungry Lynx, you're going to be giving your opponent an opportunity to get rid of your stuff on command as soon as this card is gone. The next card I'm taking out is Fleece Main Lion. This is a good card for the early game, but as soon as you get into the late or mid game, you draw this card, it's really less effective. You don't really want to spend 7 mana to have a 4/4 indestructible hexproof. 4/4 indestructible hexproof, nothing like, it's nothing bad, but in terms of commander, there's a lot more you could do with that 7 mana, so that's why I'm saying take it out. In the long run, it's probably going to not really make a difference. Even if it gets out early, sure, you'll be able to protect against a few early attackers, but the goal here is to really make an impact at every stage of the game, and this here dropping down as a 3/3 doesn't really make a huge difference. I know this is a really good card in other formats, or at least it was. Just at this stage of the game, I would take it out. The next card that I want to highlight is Hunter's Prowess. Hunter's Prowess seems like a good card. You know, it's until the end of turn, target creature gets +3/+3, gains trample, and has whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw that many cards. So for 5 mana, you're giving your creature trample, you're giving them a boost, and the possibility of drawing a bunch of cards. Well, here's the problem, is that it's a sorcery, so it's a televised play that people can definitely play around, either by getting rid of the creature that you'll be buffing, or just by using a bunch of trump blockers to make sure that there's not really that much damage getting through. It's an unreliable card, one-time effect for 5 mana. I'm not a big fan of it, so let's just get rid of it. The rest of the cards here are here. They're not that great. Another call, I guess, would be Staff of Nin. Staff of Nin does provide a card draw, but at 6 mana, it's kind of pricey, and I can think of better things that we can do that we'll be putting into the deck for that. The curses are gone. Dreamstone Hedron is gone. We have a good amount of mana acceleration, or just searching for other lands to put onto the battlefield that we don't really need this overcosted mana rock. All right, so what are we adding to this deck? Well, the first card we'll be adding is Regal Caracal, and this card is obviously a great lord for cats. It boosts your cats and gives lifelink. And not only that, when it enters the battlefield, you get to create 2 additional cat creature tokens. So they're 2/2s in theory, because they're getting that +1/+1 as long as this card is out here. Plus, giving your cats lifelink is also another good way of ensuring that you can keep momentum, and you know, if you get beat down a bit, you'll be able to weather that. Pride Sovereign is another card, which again is also a new card. So Pride Sovereign gets +1/+1 for each other cat you control, and it's also producing cat tokens if you exert it. Leonin Abundance is another card. You're gonna have a lot of artifacts in this deck, whether it's equipments or just straight up artifacts. Giving those artifacts hexproof is a good way of going to ensure that people don't just pick off the important artifacts that you'll be playing. The fact that it's a cat is also great. It synergizes well with the rest of the deck. Next is Nactil Warpride. This is actually a really good card that synergizes well with a lot of other cards already in the deck. Whenever Nactil Warpride attacks, create X tokens that are copies of Nactil Warpride and that are tapped and attacking, where X is the number of creatures defending player controls. You exile those tokens at the beginning of the next end step, but that's okay because you're not only creating a lot of cats, which could trigger other abilities, it could buff other creatures, but it could also clear the board of tokens, it could clear the board of other numerous amounts of creatures. This is a really good card that definitely should be slotted in. Not expensive either, and we're doing well on our prices, so we can take some liberties. Next is a Johnny Collar of the Pride, which is the liberty I was talking about. This is a card that's a bit more expensive than the rest. I think it's the most expensive card that will be slotting in. It just fits really well. The plus, minus, and ultimate abilities all work well with whatever we want to do. So putting a +1/+1 counter just boosts, one of those major players. So if you want to protect one of the lords, or you want to give a legendary creature another +1/+1 to ensure that its effects really play around and stay on the battlefield, like Miri or something or other. -3 is that you can theoretically swing in for lethal with the -3 ability, and then at worst, if you're able to continuously tick it up, and then you put X 2/2 white cat creature tokens onto the battlefield, you are going to be able to swarm your opponent. Not only that, triggering a bunch of other things that might go down depending on your board state. It's a really good card. I suggest it's not that expensive. Next is Life Crafter's Bestiary. At the beginning of your upkeep, you scry one. Scry, as you know, is a really strong ability. Being able to filter the top of your deck is going to minimize the chances of you really getting screwed. Now, it could still happen because you can have a whole stack of cards that aren't good, but being able to filter through those cards quicker is a great boon. But not only that, whenever you cast a creature spell, you can pay a green, and if you do, you draw a card. So there are quite a few creatures in this deck, and being able to draw those extra cards is great. I will totally pay off that 1 green to draw an extra card. Now the next 2 cards are equipments, just to bolster that equipment theme that this deck kind of already had going with it, and that's Stoneforge Masterwork. So this is another tribal type of equipment that really benefits those tribal decks. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. So you can really, again, if you are putting out a bunch of tokens, like with a few of the cards that are already in the deck or the cards that I've mentioned, this only gets better. Next is Masterwork of Ingenuity. It goes without saying, this is a really good equipment. Next is Gift of Immortality. I like this as a form of recursion, or it's a hate sponge. So it's a hate sponge in the sense that a player will need to use 2 removal spells in succession to really get rid of that creature, or they destroy the permanent, which is Gift of Immortality, but keep the creature for a later time. So it really acts as a way of either preventing your creatures from dying from things like Wrath, or from multiple removal spells. So while this one creature that you're enchanting eats up 2 removal spells, that saves another card that would have been on the battlefield from being eaten by the removal spell. So this is a really good way of going about it. It's one of my favorite cards from the Theros block. I kind of slot it into every white deck. So if you think it doesn't belong here, or you don't like this card for whatever reason, I could be biased. I just have done really good things with this card, and my play group hates it when I play this. And in the similar vein, Darksteel Mutation is another card that I oftentimes include in my commander decks, because it really is able to target those commander creatures, keeps them on the battlefield, but makes this card that you're enchanting useless. Yeah, it's a chump blocker, but if you're getting rid of a powerful commander that synergizes well with the rest of the deck, you're kind of crippling that deck, making sure that the creature cannot be recast because you're keeping it on the battlefield. And finally, the last card that I am going to highlight and say that we should include here is True Conviction. Creatures you control have double strike and lifelink. There are quite a few areas for you to be able to get a bunch of tokens to swarm your opponents and then really win the game out. But if not, you at least you're gaining life, you're getting that double strike effect, so you're able to kill creatures before they can hit you if your creatures are properly buffed. So there you have it. Those are the cards that I've included. We've topped out at $18.46, so under budget. That's great. One thing I want to highlight is a card that I had on here for the longest time was Felidar Sovereign. There is a life gain theme in this deck, so it could benefit, but ultimately I made the decision between Felidar Sovereign and War Pride, and War Pride won out. There are some other cards which I figured, maybe can get removed, like Darksteel Mutation or Gift of Immortality, if you really want to boost your creature count by that much, and the Felidar Sovereign does act as a a sponge, and it's only 49 cents, so it definitely fits. I just didn't really have any other cards I wanted to remove from the deck. I felt like it could be a lateral upgrade or maybe marginal, and for 6 mana, Felidar Sovereign was pretty situational in that I haven't seen very many games win with Felidar Sovereign. So it happens, but not reliably enough to justify that 6 mana. So I decided to cut it. If you like it in your deck, by all means, shoot it in there. It's not expensive by any stretch of the imagination. So there you have it. Let me know again what you would like to see in this deck that I did not include. Let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to check out some of my other videos, including those other guides that I had mentioned for budget upgrades. Really like to thank you for making me a part of your day. And until next time, good gaming.